Aujourd'hui, parler de why and how money is a thing that most Americans do not talk about. It is fascinating to me that this is a taboo subject, right? And how I think we should talk about the subject, especially if anyone ever wants to fire, okay? Hey, I'm Pucky, right? Another day not working for the man. Oh man, I meditatively just love saying that. Anyway, I asked Wifey for whatever she's read that affected her via her recent Reddit binges on the fire thread, and she brought up an example of a wife and husband duel, where the lady was complaining that her dude makes like a third as much money, okay? In that, the lady in that household makes 100K and the dude makes like 30K, and seems quite stuck on his level of professional ambition, right? But this isn't about advice on that specific scenario, but rather the tangent that it moved my brain into. After all, to me, the obvious question here that I immediately thought of was, why was the lady surprised that this dude made so little? And more importantly, didn't feel like he could achieve more, right? Why wouldn't she know this before she got married? So I did some quick research and confirmed my suspicions. Apparently Americans just really hate talking about money in general. Okay, I will link a Atlantic article below that covers this topic, right? Like, one of my favorite statistics out of the article was that 34% of cohabiting couples, married or not, one or both partner couldn't correctly identify how much money the other make. I would say I'm surprised by my personal anecdotal evidence from loved ones to prove that that was not, in fact, inaccurate, right? Apparently, Americans really do not ask these questions even of their long-term partners. The chinois in me was simply mind-blown, right? What the what now? So what advice would I have for future fire adherents on the subject? Oh, I feel a rant a-coming, okay? Anyway, so if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, and all that social media buzzwords or whatever, okay? Because I am rich enough for me. We'll be great regardless. Okay, so first of all, I find it kind of hilarious that couples in long-term relationships don't always talk about money, right? My wifey confirmed that she didn't know how much money her previous beaux made, because, as she put it, well, they weren't engaged yet. So I didn't think it was pivotal. I know my wifey, and she's an extremely competent, organized, and well-prepared winner at life. And still, she thought it was totally fine to just approximate what a partner might bring in financially, because that's the culture she grew up in. I mean, again, I want to express my being astoundedness, okay? Because I know people can fudge their financial strengths by simply, using the power of credit or something, right? And I'll bet that's really what happened with that Reddit OP who started me on my rant today, right? Maybe the lady in that case also knew she made more, but just didn't realize how way more it was until much later in the relationship, okay? But honestly, I think this is actually just a terrible stance to be in. So here's my advice for couples, right? If you've been together for more than a year, or thinking about really staying together at least past that amount of time, it's just time to be transparent, okay? After all, after this amount of time, I'm assuming a couple has been, explicitly transparent with each other physically, right? So why would you hide something that is much more common, like money, okay? Everyone will have their own issues on finances, right? So no need to be ashamed or whatever. Just talk about it. Do that Band-Aid ripoff. Just do it, okay? Now, point number 2, right? What about talking about money with your friends and family? Now, the article in The Atlantic makes it sound like we avoid that conversation, especially when we're better off, because we don't want to make this group of people, our peers, right? That's not a romantic partner, just our peers, feel bad. I guess I can understand that logic to some extent. I mean, after all, I don't explicitly badger anyone's head over, exactly what my own net worth is, right? I just say, hey, I'm rich enough for me, right? And that could be extremely subjective. But I do not agree that I should feel any kind of shame about what I have, at least not with my actual close friends and family. Now, with your own parents and kids, I get it. Maybe you didn't get to choose them, and the relationship can have some very specific implications. I'm lucky enough to have parents that I trust very much, and currently have no kids, so that's a moot point, right? But even with my friends, I mean, I'd like to hope that I could talk at least to a handful of them about my financial situation, because I did choose these people to be in my life, didn't I? At some point. So if someone's, friends of mine's feeling like they'll be judged by their friends or whatever if they dare to talk about money, good Lord, I just say get better friends, okay? Bruh, seriously, you don't have to take that kind of schnitzel. Final point though, I'm going to make this one a curveball. Do I think money transparency is reasonable in all aspects of life though? What about pay transparency at work? Okay, because that's a big topic these days. So on this specific topic, I'd actually go with it generally nah. I mean, I don't mean that employers shouldn't put out a range as to what they're willing to pay, when they're looking for workers. They should, right? Any employer who'd pretend they're remotely competitive absolutely needs to put out at least a range just to stay in the game for any reasonably competent employees, right? However, what I am objecting to here is total pay transparency within any company in terms of pay. And my reasoning is quite simple. Okay, the lack of total transparency is better for individual achievement, right? At least for those of us who's willing to bluff a bit, right? I think bluffing here is a good analogy because the lack of transparency can give the bold individuals of the world a leg up and hurt those employees who play the musical chair of job movements straight up. Just imagine if you're playing a game of Texas Hold'em, but everyone can see everyone's hand. It just wouldn't be much of a game at all, right? So in my personal experience and with my personal personality, I know I can do better than most players swinging for the fences. So am I being selfish on this one? Yes, but you can be too, okay? In conclusion, good Lord, I'm so glad I did not grow up in this weird financial taboo culture where that actually I think most Americans did, right? Believe me, it is quite cultural. I mean, literally the only Chinese lady I've ever dated, I'm pretty sure she asked me how much money I made on like date 2 or 3. And I was totally fine telling her. After all, if that was a big problem for her, wouldn't I rather find out earlier on in the courtship instead of, dropping a giant douche bomb when people are already trapped together? Ugh. Anyway, but I'm also not an absolutist, so I say talk about money. You should talk about money with people that you trust, right? But with employers, you fake them out and use the lack of transparency to your own advantage, right? That's life. Not all aspect of it is going to be fair, right? But that also doesn't mean that it can't work in your favor, right? Did I miss something major or basic, or you think, there's a big plot hole in my argument? Please correct me if you'd like. After all, these are all opinions, okay? Cheers. I'll approach it.